Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the All Star Wrestling Review Series here on Pro Wrestling Logic for the 19th of July, 1980, and we continue our foray through that. We've got the rest of 1980 to get through, 81, which has almost every program. I think there's one or two missing from that year, and then maybe a little more than half a dozen from 1982. Wishing that 83 through 85 were there. The expansion years would have been a fun run, but not up on the Peacock network as of yet, and not finding all that many from other sources. Anyway, as we continue to run through this particular program, this is an interesting time. Summer 1980, you can feel, or at least I can, the differences towards a larger style product. Obviously, hosted by Vince McMahon, Bruno Sammartino, Pat Patterson, pinning Johnny Rodz 806 with a slingshotting Rodz face first into the turnbuckle. Patterson not fully transitioned into being a commentator yet, which, looking back, I think was a setup for the Slaughter feud, which was Patterson's last major feuds. Rodz, of course, brawling with Patterson on the outside in the early stages of the match. They kind of break it down. They have battled before in previous episodes over the last couple of years, and we see Patterson sending Rodz into the steel post. The fact that he does not end up bleeding or really marked up doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense, especially with Rodz still being kind of an enhancement talent guy at the time. But Patterson, with the arm lock takeover and lots of punch kick, Patterson goes back to the outside, not being a complete nutneck as a babyface, instead kind of focusing on his own ability to bring out the best out of his opponent where he can, when he can, and a couple attempted roll-ups, doesn't get all he wants on it, does manage to get, some jabs and the like on his adversary here, and eventually slingshotting the man into the buckle does get a victory for good old Pat Patterson. We move forward into a run there. And kind of getting, into a good run of it. And so we can kind of get a nature of moving forward. The next in the run is, let me just see here. Let's see. So, as we move forward, Larry Zbyszko, Frankie Williams with a suplex, 5:49 after the bout. Zbyszko basically cuts an amazing promo, which if you've never seen this promo from Zbyszko or the promos around the time from Zbyszko, which seem to be less than one would expect for how pushed he is, although we don't have access to the Championship Wrestling, which was their other primary program. This is just phenomenal. Zbyszko goes on and on about how if you feel justified in using a weapon, if you feel justified in standing up for yourself by cheating, then you should do exactly that. Being a good person doesn't pay off, is basically his idea. And ultimately, that is where things are kind of going. And so then we kind of see Zbyszko managing to get a couple of shots, punches, kicks, and basic shots in. Nothing necessarily worth writing home about, but Zbyszko, again, cuts his man off a little bit here. The chokehold masked as a reverse chin lock and other such things. Zbyszko takes cheap shots, sends the man to the outside, does everything he possibly can to, when he pulls him back in, gets the suplex victory. And that promo, again, one of the things of beauty, worth going out of your way to see if you're not familiar with the promo. It is available on the network. Just Larry Zbyszko is a phenomenal heel, and I think because he spent so long in the AWA, which was to a lot of people who grew up either with Georgia and Mid Atlantic, in other words, the TBS connection, or the WWF connection. I think the wonder of Zbyszko gets lost. Anyway, Angel Mavela defeating Mark Pole 558 with a jumping headbutt. Angel's not a guy that I think we've seen before in the area. Kind of a little different there. Kind of interesting that they bring a new guy in. Again, commentary isn't the strongest in this regard. It's there. It serves its purpose. But again, kind of having a little bit of a interesting an interesting run and kind of look at things there. I mean, basic stuff. Basic stuff. A lot of punch kick. A lot of kind of like working the head and the head to take over. In order to get this new guy over, jumping headbutt not exactly your most fascinating of options, but it's there and there's value. Where that kind of comes forward. And again, you have to have new talents coming in. You have to have that feeling, that kind of newness that comes with always having new talent coming in and kind of a freshness to the products. But I mean, it's also, necessary from a keeping intrigue. But anyhow, match is not exactly worth a heck of a lot, to be totally transparent. We move forward into the next in the run, which happens to be more towards guys that have been featured in the last little while. This time, Toru Kamada, Rick McGraw. Toru Kamada, who they have probably featured on the other main program. Rick McGraw going to a 10-minute time limit draw. Kamada going to a draw here almost, I wouldn't say devalues his push completely, but at the same time it kind of does, in the sense that he'd been portrayed as a major fighting heel. A guy who was going to take out Backlund, maybe take out Patterson, DiNucci, and the like. But Rick McGraw getting the rub with him. Kamada manages to hold the ropes. Little less feature on Fred Blassie being part of that, maybe because they were going to a limit. McGraw works the back of his opponent, drops the elbow a little bit, gets what he can out of it, and ultimately gets everything kind of together in one simple way there. Hard shots by Kamada managing to get things going in a pretty consistent brawling sort of way. I would say he has about 65% of the match, with McGraw having 35%. Going to a double, I believe double countout is what we said here. Going to that double countout, it's okay, but or 10-minute time limit draw, it's okay, but neither guy really gets over more. Although you can take it around the horn as a billable match, a basic match, in that way. And then again, you come back into the ring after being thrown into the steps. A little bit more of a brawling nature to Kamada than we've been allowed to see before, because I think this is one of Kamada's first real challenges. Also, attempted submission holds by McGraw, which he hasn't needed to use with lesser opponents. Also gives him a little more credibility and wrestling hold and maneuver diversity, which has value there. attempting to come up. And again, then we come forward with Hulk Hogan in your final match of the day, evening, whatever have you. Moving forward to Hogan defeating Fred Manzolo, 304. And again, he uses the lariat to try and get things going from a perspective there. And you know, Hogan, with the lariat again, Stan Hansen in the months to come, kind of makes a big deal out of that, and they almost teased kind of things going, in a decent enough direction in that way. So the ability and the connectivity to be able to try to get things going for Hogan, towards the Andre thing, towards Hogan being a bigger star. Obviously, he becomes a bigger star more in the AWA. Fred Blassie still there with him, which I think helps. In that everything Blassie touches eventually has some more credibility than it would average have. But anyway, we'll be back with more right after this.